I don't blame people because we have different ways of thinking. We have different ways of thinking. But to me, it doesn't make sense for us to fight for a united Africa when there are still tribal wars like this one happening in Nigeria, when there are still subtle tribal wars that are still happening here in South Africa. Let us fix that first. And then when that is fixed, we can focus on building and uniting the rest of Africa. Then we can come together. That way it's going to be easy. Not this thing of wanting us to unite right now when there's still issues like this in our countries. We are just going to form one big corrupt, one united Africa that doesn't even function. That's what I'm seeing, Mina, as long as we continue with this thing of one Africa, but our countries can't even unite themselves internally.
The last time people from eastern Nigeria tried to break away and form an independent country called Biafra, it led to a civil war between 1967 and 1970. Today in Abuja, a small number of Southeasterners are trying again. Their leader, Nnamdi Kanu, has been imprisoned and charged with criminal conspiracy and intimidation. His supporters say it's because he's fighting for independence.
The South is mainly Christians, while the North is many Muslims. We are not together. We don't share the same values. That's why we want to be alone. We are being marginalized. If you come down to the East, you don't have good roads, bad universities, you understand? After upon graduation, no job.
Kanu's detention since October without trial has sparked the recent protests.
There have been several demonstrations like this calling for the release of Nnamdi Kanu and for parts of the southeast region to break away from Nigeria. Several people have been killed and injured. Military commanders are warning that any efforts to what they call try and dismember the country will be crushed.
The government has defied 3 court orders to release Nnamdi Kanu, his supporters say.
Nigeria is one country. Even the person who championed the cause of Biafra before said Biafra was dead and buried. And if you look at the leaders of thought from that part of the country, they are not part of this agitation.
These protesters say they won't stop demanding Nigeria's breakup.
We're doing everything we can, legally to realize Biafra. That's what we're doing today. And we'll continue to do so.
The independence movement doesn't represent the entire Southeast, a region of more than 12 million people. Complaints about neglect do exist, but some say those gripes can be addressed without splitting up Nigeria.
You know, it's funny how for almost the entirety of this year, Nigerians have been speaking badly here on the internet about us black South Africans with regards to that place there, Orania. Talking all sorts of nonsense like us black people can't go to Orania and things like that, saying this and that about Orania. With the black people, how can black people in South Africa allow a place where white people want to exclude themselves from the rest of the country and all sorts of nonsense? Kanti all this time when these people are talking like this, almost the same situation is happening in their country. A situation that is almost same as this one of the Cape Independence that was trending a couple of months ago here in South Africa. The Cape must be an independent country divided from the rest of South Africa. That must be a country for white South Africans. And then they no longer want to be part of South Africa, all of that thing. Even that one, Nigerians were busy here on the internet saying, yeah, black people in South Africa can't even control the whites. The whites are busy doing what they want. Now they want their own country and black people are allowing that thing. And then I even made a video talking about this thing. There's no Cape Independence thing that's going to happen here. There's no Cape Town or the Western Cape that is going to be divided from the rest of South Africa. I said it in one of my videos. This thing of Cape Independence, it's something that's just going to last as a trend for a couple of weeks. And then we are going to forget about that thing. Look at us now. We've forgotten about that thing. No one is even talking about that. The people who are talking about it are just delusional. People who can't even understand that what they are trying to do is not something that is going to happen in this beautiful country of South Africa. Nigerians were busy here on the internet having an epic time, busy bashing us as South Africans, calling us all sorts of names because of that thing. Meanwhile, in their country, there are other black people like them, even worse than what was happening in South Africa, because that one is just white people. Maybe we can say it's racist white people, because there are still a few of those. Maybe it's racist white people. So Nigerians, what excuse do they have in their country when other black people don't want to mix with other black people? Others who want to open their own country and be divided from the rest of Nigeria, open that Biafra that they are talking about there on the video, an independent country from the rest of Nigeria. And bear in mind that these people who want to open an independent country in Nigeria are other black Nigerians. It's not white people or another racial group. That's why I always say that this thing of Africans always acting that us coming together as Africans is going to work is just being delusional. We can't even come together in our own countries. What is this? Black people in Nigeria are fighting with other black people in Nigeria. Black people in Nigeria want to be divided from the other black people in Nigeria. Yet there are people who come here and say all African countries must combine and form one Africa. How is that thing going to happen? And then people like me, when we say what we need to do is first try to unite our countries individually. And then when all our countries in Africa are peaceful, all our countries, the different tribal groups in our different countries can live together in harmony, then it's going to be easier for us to form a united Africa. But as long as there are still tribal wars in our countries, we can't form a united Africa. What we need to do, unite our countries first. We can't be fighting as tribes inside one country and think that we will be able to form a united Africa. No. That's why I like to say these people who always say that are focused on the wrong thing. This thing that is happening in Nigeria, it's just an example of the things that need to be fixed here in Africa before we can fight for a united Africa, one Africa. Nigerians must learn to live together in Nigeria peacefully, in harmony. South Africans must also learn to live together here in South Africa in harmony. Because don't just listen to me when I speak about Nigeria like this and think maybe this thing is not also happening in South Africa. This thing is also happening in South Africa. It's just that here in South Africa, it's not on the mainstream, like it's something that is happening like outright like that. It is just subtle like this, but it is there. There are people here in South Africa who are Zulu, who don't even want to see a pedi. You can see them here on the internet every day. I always see them, and that thing becomes sad to me, because I always say, Mara, this is a South African. Why are you hating another South African? Why? Just because you are Zulu, so you must hate a vendor? Or just because you are Tsonga, then you must hate Indebele? There are people who are still like that in South Africa, who think their own tribal groups are the most important here in South Africa. And then when they see these other tribal groups, it's like people who are beneath them. There are still people like that here in South Africa. Just that here in South Africa, it's not a lot of people, and it's not like outright like there in Nigeria, people saying we don't want these people, we just want to form our own independent country. It's not like that, but it is happening here in South Africa, this thing of tribalism. The day that all of us South Africans, whether you are Pedi, whether you are white, whether you are Zulu, whether you are Xhosa, can live together in harmony and say we are proud South Africans, all of us. And then Nigerians, the different types of tribal groups in Nigerians come together and be able to live together and say we are Nigerians, Zimbabweans the same, Ethiopians the same. Then that way it's going to be easy for us to combine as Africa and say this is a united Africa. But how are we going to do that when we are still fighting each other in our own countries? It just doesn't make sense. And I always say this, and every time when I say this, there are people in the comment section who don't agree with me, and it blows my mind. But I don't blame people, because we have different ways of thinking. But to me, it doesn't make sense for us to fight for a united Africa when there are still tribal wars like this one happening in Nigeria, when there are still subtle tribal wars that are still happening here in South Africa. Let us fix that first, and then when that is fixed, we can focus on building and uniting the rest of Africa. Then we can come together. That way it's going to be easy. Not this thing of wanting us to unite right now when there's still issues like this in our countries. We are just going to form one big corrupt one united Africa that doesn't even function. That's what I'm seeing, Mina. As long as we continue with this thing of one Africa, but our countries can't even unite themselves internally. That's just what I wanted to talk about in today's video. So if you agree with me or you disagree with me, tell me on the comment section down below. And if you disagree with me, tell me why you disagree with me, and also give me your point of view. But if you just enjoyed this video or you learned something new, please leave a like and subscribe to this channel. I would really appreciate it. My name is Emmanuel, and this is Mzansi Versity, the place where we transform lives through knowledge and information. Let's meet again on another video.